When we reclaim the trajectory of American history for democracy and freedom, and we will, all of you will be remembered by future generations for what you did to stand up for us during this time. And I don't want you to think that anybody doesn't notice, because we do notice what it is you're doing. But I want to ask you this, because in addition to the substantive defense of the rule of law and the Constitution you're engaged in, all of you are also modeling what it means to be an attorney general. Because we've got an attorney general of the United States who literally thinks her job is to be the president's lawyer and to do whatever the president wants her to do, and thinks that the Department of Justice is the law firm for the president and his political party. I mean, that's a remarkable deformation and diversion of American history.
Pam Bondi is turning the Department of Justice into President Trump's legal defense team. And there is a massive new development on this front we'll get to in a minute, but we need to take a look at the history and the context. From packing the Supreme Court to nominating over 200 judges, now to Pam Bondi, Trump has totally remade the legal system in the United States. And he has been dismantling our justice system since his first term.
Would you think it's improper for a judge to be rendering a decision in order to please a president who might then appoint them to the federal bench? Could I ask you, Judge St. Eve, first?
I am not familiar with that situation and don't think it would be proper to comment on somebody who's pending for a judgeship.
Right, and I would never ask you to do that, but let me ask you, Judge Scudder, abstracting from the facts of this case, is I've advanced them in a compressed way, and you can check it out if you're interested on your own. There's a lot of news coverage about it. But do you agree with what I think Judge St. Eve said at the beginning, which is that a judge should never rule in a way that is designed to please a public official as opposed to enforce the meaning of the law?
I do agree with that, and I think you recognized it in some of your comments that preceded your question, and that is embedded within the oath that judges take is we swear to decide and resolve issues without fear or favor.
And that's how it should be. We should see more of this, from judges to lawyers to DOJ personnel. But instead, this is who we have as Attorney General.
The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated.
Now that clip is from last August. Trump made it very clear what he was going to do. There was no mystery about who he would go after or who he would defend. And you really see this play out with January 6th.
The administration has talked a lot about defending law enforcement over the last week or so that these protests have going on. But you've been criticized for having a double standard with the president pardoning all these people who attacked police officers on January 6th in his first day in office. How do you answer that criticism?
Well, this is very different. These are people out there hurting people in California right now. This is ongoing, no longer. We're going to protect them. We're going to do everything we can to prosecute violent criminals in California. California is burning. These people are waving Mexican flags, yet they don't want anyone to go back to Mexico. They're burning American flags. This is the United States of America, and we're going to protect Americans. We're going to protect all citizens out there.
Suddenly, violent rioters who broke into the Capitol, assaulted police officers, harmed people, defaced the Capitol, they're okay. They're political prisoners. But protesters in Los Angeles, they're the villains. They're the enemy. They're anti-American. They need deported. They're traitorous. This is a flagrant and partisan misuse of power. And consolidating all of this authority behind Trump sets us up to have a very powerful executive branch at the expense of the others. No more checks and balances, no more divided government. And now those other branches are helpless against it.
Well, it impacts everything President Trump has done, his agenda, everything he's trying to enact under his powers of the executive branch. It blocked our tariffs, it affected our military readiness, it affected immigration, it affected our foreign affairs, it affected us eliminating fraud throughout the government. No longer. It violated the separation of powers on which our nation's government was founded, and they cannot seize power from the executive branch any longer. President Trump now can enact his agenda.
And those final decisions at the end of the Supreme Court's term are dangerous. They set us up for a potentially dark new chapter in American history. What was once a divided government with powers separated across it now allows Trump to act almost unilaterally, unchecked by the courts, unchecked by Congress. And what they're ultimately pushing for is for one man, Trump, to have unchecked power and authority. And Pam Bondi, our nation's top lawyer, is celebrating it.
This is a president who thinks he's above the law. I mean, we can scream that from the mountaintop every day, and we should. But Eugene, to your point, Pam Bondi's not the Attorney General of the United States.
Right.
We put that to bed months ago. Pam Bondi is Donald Trump's personal lawyer, period. And anybody in that Justice Department who doesn't want to represent Donald Trump instead of the Constitution and the law, they're gone. They've already left.
Of course, it flies in the face of American history and tradition. It defies core tenets of our democracy. It's not who we are, and it's not who we should be. But Republicans are embracing it because they want Daddy Trump to be an emperor. And we saw that this week in action.
But perhaps the biggest bombshell, investigators say they found no incriminating client list of Epstein's, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. For years, Epstein has been at the center of conspiracies surrounding both his death and a rumored client list allegedly used to blackmail powerful men. Attorney General Pam Bondi, back in February, was asked if the Justice Department intended to release a list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients, Bondi saying this.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
This is the first time the Trump administration has officially contradicted conspiracy theories about Epstein, theories previously pushed by members of the administration.
There are a lot of questions about what was in those Epstein documents. These documents, they tell us now, don't exist. But I want to remind you, his own administration, many figures within his administration, have been pushing for transparency on this case for years.
One of the things a lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have, well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did.
I think it's fair to speculate there is a direct personal stake in having this whole case scuttled because Trump has a long, well-documented history and a relationship with Epstein. But now they've backed themselves into a corner.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
After whipping up the MAGA base into a fervor over Epstein for years, suddenly they're telling all of their fans, all of their supporters, and all of their loyalists that there's nothing to see here. And of course, we can take a second to laugh about how some of Trump's biggest supporters were duped. It also says a lot about the power vested in the DOJ and how they can abuse it. You just heard Pam Bondi say she had Epstein's client list on her desk. Now she's been trying to scramble. She's doing a 180 in front of the media. She wants everyone to think that that wasn't actually a client list. Those were just other case documents. We aren't even seeing those. You're not showing us anything. From here, it becomes a question of what else could Trump do to make himself untouchable as president? How could he abuse that power? And how will the other branches, either Congress or the Supreme Court, aid in that effort? We'll just have to wait and see. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching.